Hey everyone, it's great to see you. And today, I'd like to talk about Rise of the Kasai, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment America, published, and developed by, I believe it's still San Diego Studio. Just checking in here. We're going to go with that. I'm pretty sure. They don't put it here on the box because it's Sony, but I'm pretty sure that was the studio that worked on the game. Rise of the Kasai is a sequel to 2002's The Mark of Kree. And, if you watched my Mark of Kree review, I have a lot of nostalgia around The Mark of Kree. I have a funny story about, purchasing it that I always love to think about when the game comes to mind. But, a couple years later when Rise of the Kasai came out, aside from seeing it, I remember in PlayStation Magazine, or maybe Game Informer, this one kind of just slipped under my radar, and I never did end up picking it up, though I did enjoy the original quite a bit. And so many years later, I thought, I need to get this game and try it out, especially revisiting the Mark of Kree. Rise of the Kasai would be a game to definitely play. And so here I am, I played the game, and I wanted to talk about the game. So one of the things that really stood out to me right away when I look at the packaging is, they took this more, I don't have it with me, the Mark of Kree, this more kind of cool, sketchy art design, sketches and sketched out, and replaced it with a couple 3D models of Rao and Tati on the front. Tati is Rao's, I believe, sister in the original title. She's like 10 or so when that happens. Now she's 20, so she's quite a bit grown up. But they do kind of keep some of that on the back of the box. So, you get a little bit of that. You get the little cool action set pieces or whatnot on their box art as well. But I do and am a big fan of the design on the inside. I really like the color. Just really contrasts to this kind of more bland color scheme that's happening on the box itself. And of course, as always, we get a nice instruction manual with our PlayStation 2 games. This one is advertising God of War on the back. Can you imagine a world in which the original God of War was coming out? I mean, it was quite a long time ago, but it's kind of cool to see it here. And inside, we get a little more of just that standard colored scheme, and it goes through, some of the weapons you can get, and it goes through a little bit about the story and how the game plays and who the characters are and so on. And not too much popping off in here. You do get a little cool, it looks like it might be, I don't know, maybe a sketch, maybe a 3D model of Tati in the back. One of the things I did want to share with you too that is incredibly frustrating as somebody who collects games is, you buy a game and you see it online and you think to yourself, oh, that price sticker, there's no way that the price sticker is on the cover art, right? It's got to be in the actual box. But sad to say, they put it on the spine of the art. Why would you do that? You ruin you ruin the look of the game. And that's super unfortunate. But can you imagine $7? Yeah, it's not bad. So what I usually try to do, if you ever experience this with your titles, is sometimes you can take a blow dryer and you can just blow dry this area for about a minute or so until it gets really hot. And sometimes that will loosen up the adhesive material on the actual sticker so that you can pull it off. But I did try that, and immediately I started to feel some of the paint was going to come off too, or some of the print. So I thought, okay, I'll just leave it on, whatever. Anyway, enough about my ramblings on stickers on cover art. Let's talk about the game a little bit. So, this game came out in 2005, so a couple years after the original, and essentially my assumption is, again, this game's kind of a gem. You don't find a whole lot of information on it in a general sense historically. You'd have to go back and dig through the archives to probably get some info. But my assumption would simply be that the original, The Mark of Kree, sold pretty well, and Sony said, hey, we'll greenlight a sequel. And so here we are. And it's kind of interesting. So, of course, at the end of the Mark of Kree, you take down the sorcerer, necromancer, excuse me, who's out to collect all 6 parts of the Mark of Kree, so that they can unleash evils on the world and rule it. And just because the necromancer's dead doesn't mean the mission has failed for the group he's part of, the Kasai. And so this game is kind of a build on that. So you follow a couple of different characters. You'll follow Baomusu, who is Rao's trainer from the original game, and Grease, who is Baomusu's trainer. So you got like a whole lineage here. And they're doing missions 10 years in the past. And so you're kind of following, okay, what led up to the Mark of Kree with these two fighting the Kasai and acting as warrior protectorates of the Mark of Kree. And then you'll follow Rao and his sister Tati, 10 years after that event, 10 years after the event of the Mark of Kree. And equally so, the Kasai are attempting to collect all 6 pieces of the Mark and, again, unleash the horrors. So from a story sense, it's pretty interesting. If you enjoyed the first game, you're going to get a lot of lore on both the past and the present and the future of the Mark of Kree. And it does set up a bit of an intriguing narrative, I would say, overall. There's a couple of different ways the game can end, too. And so you're not necessarily stuck on this kind of linear path that the Mark of Kree has kind of built into it. And more interesting, so that goes for the gameplay too. I mean, there are 4 total characters, and you will play them across a span of 13 or so levels. And throughout these levels, you get to choose on each level who you kind of want to be. And so not only do you choose who you kind of want to be, the missions are built out to where there's 2 kind of pathing areas that you can take throughout. And what will happen often is you'll fight with your ally, who's a computer AI, and then other times you'll split up with them and you'll take these different paths. And so, sometimes those paths will be stealth sections, sometimes they'll be combat sections, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool that there's some branching options. And one of the things that makes that cool is you can, revisit and replay the level as different characters, take different paths, do different things, and it'll kind of help enhance the replayability a bit of this game. At least in a sense, because when I played through it once, I really thought to myself, do I want to go back through this game? Not necessarily. That was kind of my conclusion. And a big part of that is that the levels themselves do become a little bit like repetitive. They are built to where you go from area to area and you fight a bunch of enemies, or you kind of just sneak past them a little bit. And it's really a build on the Mark of Kree in that sense, in the lens of the animations are smoother, the game looks a little better. There's definitely a wide variety of moves and techniques and weapons and things you can use now. However, overall, if you're coming out of the Mark of Kree and you're playing Rise of Kasai, it's going to feel very samey. And as I mentioned, the Mark of Kree, that review, by the end of that game, I was already kind of feeling out of the vibe of the combat. Which, to recap, the combat, you have 3 buttons essentially. It'll be X, square, circle, and you can target up to 3 enemies with a reticule, and you'll target them, and then you can press the corresponding button that they're targeted with to attack them. And say you only have 1 enemy selected, then you can use all 3 buttons to pull off combos and attacks and things. So I do like the combat quite a bit, but having an AI partner with you kind of reduces the stress a lot of the combat situations and the tension. But then also to think about kind of replaying these scenarios, I don't think they'd feel entirely too different. And so from a gameplay lens, I'd kind of echo a lot of what I was saying in the Mark of Kree, from the sense of, it starts to feel a little samey after a while. Some of the issues have been alleviated a little bit. One of the things I critiqued quite a bit was the cancelability of attacks. Like when you're trying to pull off these combo moves that are built into the game, enemies will often break your combo, or you'll get stuck on a piece of wood, or you'll hit a wall and you have to retry those things. Because of the diversity of the characters and because of the branching paths, they've kind of opened up some of the level design a bit, and these issues weren't as prevalent to me. So that's good that there was improvement in that sense. And it's nice there's improvement from a level design sense in kind of adding some options for you to mess around with. From a sound lens, I said this as well in the Mark of Cree, but I really did enjoy kind of the action and combat sounds and music. And you get these really cool moments where there's a freeze frame when you're pulling off combos, and your character will shout the combo out and then like totally annihilate the enemy with whatever kind of skill you set up. And I thought that was really cool and fun. So there's some cool things happening in the sound landscape, but I would say overall that there's nothing that really stood out particularly about the sound to me. And graphically, again, this game retains its kind of Disney-esque art style that the Mark of Cree had. I love the art style. I thought it was really cool, and it stands up to this day in terms of just being visually aesthetic and having something interesting to show your eyes when you're playing the game. So that's fun. One of the things I wanted to revisit, since we were talking about the level design, is that in the original, the Mark of Cree, you had this tavern world as your hub, and so between each level, you'd go there and you could do trainings, or you could select different levels you wanted to replay, or do fighting arenas and talk to people, etc. And in Rise of the Kasai, you just kind of have this level select screen, and you just kind of choose whatever level you want to play, and then that's how you carry it from there. I did enjoy the original title's approach because it kind of feels like you're really part of this world. Whereas Rise of the Kasai, since you have this level select screen and Kuzo's just kind of hanging out there, the bird, waiting for you to choose a level, it feels more like a game. And so it kind of takes you a bit out of the immersion of a game. And so I thought that was kind of a hit or miss, so to speak. And so overall, those are kind of my big thoughts of the game. I have just a couple of really big critiques I want to mention for me, which was that one of the things that was here is that both on the enemy and your cooperative AI companion, the AI is pretty lacking. And one of the things that's most frustrating is the stealth areas in this game, because your companion is often following you. And I can't tell you how many times they messed it up for me, or they were getting in the way, or they thought, oh, I got to attack. And they spoiled the stealth moment and caused an enemy to call in reinforcements. Then you have this big fight, and so that was really frustrating. And another big thing that you're surprised and thinking to yourself, oh, Forrest, you didn't mention this, and it's because it doesn't exist. And that's there's no split screen in this game, and it's such a missed opportunity in my opinion. I mean, PlayStation 2 is one of the best platforms for doing multiplayer games in general, and you have this game that's set up for all levels to be two companions where you split off, you come together, you fight and do things, and they made it a one-player game. And I don't know who thought a single-player experience would have been built for what they wanted to do for Rise of the Kasai. But if they made it split screen, I think that this game would have been much more praised than it ultimately was, which when it got released, it had mixed reception, and we never saw the Mark of Cree 3. And so I think it's kind of a testament to some of the shortcomings of this title. And now that I've played it and experienced it, I can kind of see those in real time. So those are kind of my big thoughts of the game. The story's intriguing. There's a couple of different ways to approach it, things to learn about. You get different endings, for example. The gameplay's super fun still, super visceral, violent, chaotic, and because you have an AI companion, they can throw more enemies on the screen and make it super fun and just flashy to look at. The level design's been built out a little bit, and because of those options, it's fun, and if you really enjoy the game, there's a lot of replayability there for you. Sound, graphics, very cool art style, and I think because of it, the game does not age as much as it is aged, right? It's almost 20 years old now. It can drive a car, so to speak. But overall, I thought pretty decent game. I like the Mark of Cree, the original, more. I think a big part of that being my nostalgia and having grown up playing and enjoying that game. But it was fun to finally see Rise of the Kasai, kind of hear more about the story, the lore of the world that they built, and just simply enjoy it. And so, yeah, that's what I thought. Did you play the Rise of the Kasai? And if you did, what'd you think about it? Would love to know. And if you like the video, please like the video, and would love for you to subscribe and stick around for more in the future. Would love to chat games with you. Well, until next time, hope you're well, and take care. Thanks for tuning in.